Discharging his weapon is Officer Jason Letterman, a 19-year veteran with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. The suspect and the information available to you is Dwayne Wimberly, with a date of birth of 6/28 of 1983. On Sunday, April 19th, a vehicle was carjacked near 11th Avenue and Sutel Drive by a black male with a black handgun. That suspect approached the rear of the vehicle we recovered yesterday on the driver's side, stuck the black handgun to the victim's head, snatched him out of the vehicle, robbed him of his cell phone, and subsequently carjacked the suspect and took that vehicle. Yesterday, on April 22nd, patrol officers were following up on a tip related to that vehicle and that carjacking at 8225 Dix Ellis Trail, looking to end. The officer set up on the carjacked vehicle about 4 a.m. and waited for the suspect to return to the vehicle. At approximately 10 a.m., a black female approached the vehicle and placed an item inside of the vehicle. The officers, where they were positioned, were not able to see which room the female came out of, nor were they able to see which room she returned to. However, a short time later, the black male suspect that was apprehended yesterday and the black female that they had witnessed earlier go to the vehicle, the officers saw them approaching the vehicle and attempted to make contact with them. As the officers were making contact with the individuals, the suspect took flight and began running north towards Bay Meadows Road. The area that he was running, the parking lot area that he was running through, is bordered by the I-95 southbound ramp as well as the other hotel rooms. So, as the officers are in foot pursuit of the individual, Officer Letterman observed a black handgun being carried by the individual. Letterman notified the other officers attempting to apprehend the individual that he was armed, and they continued pursuing him through the parking lot. As K-9 was closing in and the officers were attempting to apprehend him, the suspect attempted to elude the apprehension by jumping a chain link fence that would give him access towards the 95 on ramp. The officers approached the chain link fence. The suspect was in a crouched position. While he's in that crouched position, he turns towards the officer and starts reaching in his waistband. The officer, being in fear and knowing the suspect was previously armed, fired 3 rounds from his issued firearm. One of the rounds struck the suspect in his left ankle. During the foot pursuit, Officer Letterman observed the suspect throw an item away, but because of the heavy brush in that area, Officer Letterman was not able to determine what he tossed away. However, we were able to later recover a firearm at the scene. That firearm has been determined to be stolen in a burglary from 2014. So, after the suspect was shot by the officers, or by the officer, he complied with the officer's direction and subsequently came out on the I-95 southbound ramp, where he was taken into custody and transported to UF Health for treatment to his injury. The suspect's criminal history has been made available to you today. You can see that he's a convicted felon. We mentioned that yesterday as well. He's been arrested several times for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. In this case, he's also been charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, as well as the possession of the stolen firearm. It's important to note that throughout this incident, witnesses heard officers identifying themselves and giving direction to the suspect as he attempted to elude apprehension by the officers. The suspect was in control of this entire situation and dictated the primary factors related to the foot pursuit, the threat to the public around Bay Meadows Road, and the eventual force determined by the officer. At any point, the suspect, recognizing that officers were working to detain him, could have complied with their directions. Instead, he chose to escalate the situation. It's cases like this that remind us how dangerous police work is and how important it is that we have the community support in these cases. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Just for clarification purposes, if the suspect threw the gun down during the foot pursuit, what was the suspect reaching for if the gun was in his possession when he was shot?
We haven't had an opportunity to fully interview the officer. He has the rights afforded to anyone. This is a criminal investigation as well as the Sheriff's Office investigation to the suspect's actions. So we have not had an opportunity to get a full statement from the officer. So we're still determining some of those, some of the officer's actions and some of the things that occurred. So.
But that is accurate, that the gun was thrown down beforehand.
Well, and I mentioned that the officer didn't clearly see what he threw, and you were at the scene yesterday, so you know the heavy brush that's between the interstate and the hotel. So it is heavy brush, and so I mean the officer knew he threw something. That also doesn't preclude the suspect from having a secondary weapon or a second weapon. So
was it before he jumped over the fence or after? Did he throw the gun away?
It was before he jumped over the fence.
The burglary in 2014, do you know if he was involved in actually stealing this gun or that he somehow got possession of the stolen gun?
We don't know those details yet. We're still working to determine that, but it was a burglary to a pawn shop and 2 firearms were stolen in that case.
Do you know which pawn shop?
We can get you that information.
Okay.
Does Wimberly's description match description of the carjacking suspect? I mean, stolen cars change hands. I'm just playing the attorney here. Do you have evidence that shows that he was the carjacker?
There are some similarities, but we're still working through the fine details of that. He has not been charged in that carjacking.
Any other questions on this?
Chief, how far was Lederman from, how far was Jason from the suspect when he fired?
He was fairly close to him. I don't know the exact distance, but he was fairly close.
Ballpark?
Close.
Did you all know that he was the person who was going to be in the car, or you just simply were doing surveillance on the vehicle?
We were surveilling the vehicle. We were just surveilling the vehicle. We knew it was a carjacking vehicle taken, with a firearm.
And what happened to the girl?
We interviewed her at the scene. We're still working through some of those details. So.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Chief.